I'm back. And I'm eating my dinner, which I really couldn't eat earlier, even though our dear Mama Duck, Rachel, told me to go for food. There was nobody else helping me with the setup after Rachel left. And I think maybe there was one other person, but mostly I was setting all the pillows and everything and cushions for my workshop. And I was just reflecting. Rachel gave me a big hug at the end as she came up to the front where I was sitting and sat down next to me and gave the overview of tomorrow. And she leaned into me and she said, "Don't get jealous now." She said, I think that was the most, she said that was the most emergent, whatever she said, field type of event. And I said, no, don't be sorry, don't apologize. I said, I'm still the one that nobody picked to be in a workshop together with them in a triad. And yeah, I was reflecting on that. And no, not really. No, that's a lie. I was not reflecting on that. I just thought, yeah, that's the way life is sometimes. And I think I said that as well. And here I am as well, eating my cold dinner on my own, alone, as it felt like time to leave the main hall because everybody was still in a lovely vibe there. And I felt like, well, for dinner, I felt like it's probably better. And I say it like that, but I know that it is better that I'm on my own, eating on my own, because, yeah, people have been really lovely and coming up and letting me know how good it was to feel me and to also experience my flow and how much they enjoyed it, and all wonderful, beautiful things and really touching for sure. And including people that I often feel like they don't like me, coming up and just really giving me, a big thumbs up and big smile and, yeah, giving me some time and praise and, beauty themselves. So it's an interesting, I don't want to say conundrum because I'm tired of that word, but it's an interesting kind of like a paradox. And not to puff myself out too much, but they say often visionaries are alone because their vision and their kind of experience of life is way beyond most other, I don't know, mainstream people or whatever. And I don't, necessarily feel that for myself, although I often see that in others, that I see that they're on their own and that, they are sensitive souls that perceive maybe a bit deeper or wider than other people that do have a big circle of peers around them. We're just not antisocial, but socially maladjusted. But this week, what I've seen is a lot of my colleagues here, I've perceived that there's a lot more personal trauma going on behind the scenes than I had appreciated in the past. And I think that is because as this week was all about putting us up to the mark, getting us to facilitate our events, our workshops for each other, and getting in-depth and detailed feedback as to what worked and what could have been maybe better to feel us more, that in itself was worth, any amount of gold and silver. In having to come through such a task, for me, I always feel like the magnifying glass is then out as to like, what am I offering and for who, and when I experienced, first of all, I was paired with 2 other individuals in the course and that fell asunder. I wasn't the only one in that other groups were struggling, but they all made it through. I think my triad was the only one where the 2 other people left. First one, and then the other one thought that I had left, and they were they had expressed it, God love them, very emotively, and but the story was like I hadn't left, and then they decided to leave anyway, and so it was kind of almost reassuring when we received an extra pep talk from our wise elder, David Cates. Tonight it was, as he won't be seeing us again. He won't be here in December. He's based on Turtle Island, so it's quite a distance to come all the way. It's worth every minute of it when he is here, but he won't be here for our final module and our graduation and this big winter gathering that we're going to be all putting on. And he said, the first field that we facilitate is the field of our triads, of these groups that we had been put in together with. And if we cannot reconcile between the three of us the field that exists between us, no matter how disparate or incongruent we are with each other, then imagine how are we expecting to facilitate the field, the wider field, the more dense field between us and a population of festival goers that come to attend our event. So those were humbling words, and for all of us to just consider how we have navigated through our triads. And then when we were invited to find our next triad for Module 5, I went up to a couple of people. In fact, the two people that had agreed to help me with my workshop tonight, and I love the way they work from what I can see, and the dynamic was that they wanted somebody else, and they were waiting on that somebody else's answer. So I thought, okay, well that's clear enough. But I just kind of sat there and I said, I was wondering, it was interesting because that somebody else, let's say that was A and B, and I wanted to be their C. That C that they wanted was one of two. There was another C, another man and another woman. And that other woman really wanted to collaborate with yet another, a D, say. And so she was torn. And I realized I was just kind of hanging out and, waiting to see what the outcome was and just holding space in a way. But their body language told me that they weren't exactly, I feel, and of course no offense is taken in the magnanimous part of Penelope, but just that they weren't exactly like, hang out and we'll see what she says. And, this other person, the C person, was obviously torn because she really wanted to collaborate with a D, another person. And that other person was on their own. And if this person was going to go with the other two people that I thought I'd love to work with them. And anyway, so it was just, I went on. After a little while, I saw another two people that were on their own, and so I came to be that third person. But again, it's that interesting thing of like, where do you belong? Even though you are capable and able to deliver, and by all accounts it was wonderful and like perfect, and perfect ending to the night and perfect offering in itself, blah blah blah. Still like, okay, I don't see a whole line of people crowding around to want to collaborate with me. And this is just another facet of the life of Penelope, of just being that lone wolf, and saying, the day of the lone wolf is over. And I have a trust that things will work out and unfold as they're meant to unfold. And yet, it's lonely as well. And through doing the field training, I feel my nervous system unfurling, and how much sometimes the frustration and the sadness at feeling rejected and unwanted is like, it's had years to be processed and be experienced through different lenses, watching others and empathizing and also, cognizing when somebody else feels that way. and also recognizing when people might be attracted to me because they may not know, this makeup in me, that this lives in me as well, this feeling of like, oh, I'm not good enough to be with others, or nobody wants me. And yet, however it is, I've made a life around that anyway. What is this thing over here? Yeah, and sure, it's not over, as they say, until. So I'm still unraveling it all and figuring it out. And it's fascinating and mysterious, I suppose, because yeah, as the old phrase is, come a long way. And I guess there's a big part of me that would never have really wallowed in the feeling of being lonely or unwanted since I was a child. I think as a child I would have felt this strongly, and but yeah, there was always something that was preventing me from fully just, I don't know, surrendering to that feeling of being unwanted, because then other elements would come into my life and make me feel wanted. As a child, it was inappropriate sexual advances from guys in the hood. And yeah, it's been an interesting story that people say they would love to read it in a book form. But sure, I do believe honestly that we each have this story. Maybe my story is worth learning about because we could learn from it. I could certainly learn from it. Anyway, I'm waffling now, so I'm going to leave you, finish this cold dinner, and hopefully have a nice early night before our last full day at TheField. Module 4, Cohort 2024. Gramaigit. Thanks for sharing this with me. And yeah, as you can see, this is a very amateur kind of sharing witchy. And all I can say is, yeah, I don't even know what's going to happen after this. I'm glad that it all worked out. I'm so appreciative of everybody who got on board and took a chance, including me, I suppose.